So here is a short video on how to use the K-Kontrol. There are a couple of main elements that you need to ensure that you're going to get data out of the K-Kontrol. The transmitters need to be switched on, the receiver needs to be switched on, you need to have software to display the data coming from the receiver, and you need to have thermocouples plugged in. It's really quite that simple. So assuming you've got your transmitter on, and assuming you've got your receiver switched on, then the first step would be to make sure that the cable is connecting your receiver and your software. We're not going to comment at the moment on how we can do that within an integrated machine, but in terms of how it connects to the K-Cord software, you would ensure that the K-Cord software is up and running on your laptop. Make sure the recording is hit. Make sure the software, in other words, is looking for data. And make sure you've connected the correct end of the cable into the laptop. So there are two cables coming out of the receiver. There's one for machine integration and there's one for laptop. So ensure that you've got the right one in the laptop. Which one is that? There's one called PC1 and there's PC2. Normally, PC1 is for the machine and PC2 is for the laptop. PC1 will work with the laptop definitely. Sometimes, depending on your Windows configuration, it does not work with PC1. So try it, make sure you're getting the data in first of all, and once you've determined which lead operates with your laptop, then you take a note of that and stick with that. Then we've got to make sure that we've got thermocouples attached to the K-Kontrol slip ring. If you don't have thermocouples connected, you'll still get data coming into the software. You'll just not have data coming in on those two channels on the K-Kontrol. But you'll still have battery status of the transmitter. You'll have battery status of the receiver. You'll have the ambient temperature from the probe, which is outside the slip ring, and you'll have the internal slip ring temperature, which is the probe inside where the brushes are in the slip ring. So you'll still get data coming through. The system will still work. You'll just not have data from channel 1 and channel 2, which are to be plugged into the mold. Okay, so that's the first thing you do to make sure you've got the data coming through to the PC. Excuse me, and I would always recommend that you would have a PC running alongside the machine integration software, so that with the K-Cord you can easily take the data out from the system, take it to another computer and analyze that on another computer. It's also a little bit easier, in my view, to troubleshoot the system when you've got the raw data coming through. A lot of machinery integration softwares take our data, which we send every 2 seconds, and average that over a period of time, and then pass that single value onto the machine to control, which is the correct and the right way to do it, because the machine doesn't need to see every temperature signal every 2 seconds. 10-15 seconds is enough time to send the data on. So what the machine integration part of the system is doing is averaging and looking for erroneous data and removing that. So once you get the data coming through from the slip ring, then you can plug your thermocouples in and take them to the mold. Okay, and you should then get the temperature of wherever the thermocouple is. We'll talk about positioning of thermocouples in another short video after this. Okay, so you've got all your data coming through, and you've got it displayed on the machine. You've got make sure you've got good battery power before you start. Yeah. If it does go red and say change your batteries, you've got hours to do that. Okay, maybe not days, but you've got hours to do that, and you should get ready to do that. So buy a stock of D-cell batteries. Okay, because you will use them 2 per arm on which the K-Kontrol is installed. The receiver shouldn't need a battery, you should have it plugged into the power behind the control panel. Okay. Let's talk about positioning of the receiver unit. Okay, so you've got radio communications between the machine arms and the receiver box. Okay, so you should at least, you don't need line of sight, but you should help it as much as you can to ensure that there's a good communication between the two. What we don't want to do is just to be, working on the cusp of just on the edge of the boundary, and find that whenever a large mold goes past in a forklift truck, that it breaks communications. Okay, so the receiver box should be preferably up high on top of the control cabinet if it's integrated with the machine. And line of sight is a good test to ensure you've got a very good chance of good communications. Okay, so that's using K-Kontrol. That's getting you up and ready to go. So in the next video, we're going to talk about positioning of those thermocouples on your mold.